Picture this. It's a hot July afternoon and you just hopped out of the pool to enjoy a juicy barbecue hamburger from the grill. And you also have sweet corn on the cob. But what if I were to tell you that your hamburger bun and that deliciously sweet corn on the cob was made using genetic modification? I am here today to explain how and when genetically modified foods were created and their uses. Now, by a show of hands, who here likes a drop of sugar in their coffee? Okay, and how about zucchini and corn? Okay. Now, what if I were to tell you that according to the United States Department of Agriculture, 90% of corn grown in the United States are grown from herbicide-resistant seeds? Genetically modified organisms, also known as GMOs, have gotten a lot of negative press since their introduction. And I am going to share with you a little bit about their history and how they are made and their uses. Of course, while nothing like today, genetic modification is nothing new. Selective breeding of dogs is an example. But how did GMO technology begin? According to Gabriel Rangel with Harvard University, GMO technology had its breakthrough in 1973 when Herbert Boyer and Stanley Cohen created the first genetically engineered organism. The scientists developed a method where they were able to cut out a gene from one organism and paste it into another. In 1975, a conference was held with doctors, lawyers, and government officials where they debated the safety of the genetically engineered experiments. They ultimately agreed that the experiments were safe to continue, but with established guidelines. Now, before I scare you and make you never want to eat corn again, let's go over how GMOs are created. GMOs are created in labs using gene editing. Gene editing is when scientists make a tiny change in the DNA of a living organism. A perfect analogy is given by Purdue University. The simplest way to envision this process is to imagine editing a giant manuscript. You flip through the hundreds of pages until you reach the one sentence you wish to edit. And then you carefully change a single word. This creates a tiny change in an enormously complex Word document, or in this case, a genome. According to the National Center of Biotechnology Information, genetic modification is a special set of gene technology that alters the genetic machinery of such living organisms as animals, plants, or microorganisms. Combining genes from different organisms is known as recombinant DNA technology, and the resulting organism is said to be genetically modified. Genetic modification is used to give a plant or organism a genetically favorable trait. As stated by Medline Plus, the process is to create genetically engineered foods is different than selective breeding. This involves selecting plants or animals with desired traits and breeding them. Over time, this results in offspring with those desired traits. Now that we know how they are created, let me tell you why we use GMOs. GMOs are used to provide more food to growing populations. GMOs were created in order to make some crops herbicide resistant, and others were created to be immune to crop devastating viruses. Chelsea Powell of Harvard University mentions that the main goal of most genetic engineering performed on food is to increase crop yield and/or to improve nutrient value in animal feed. The population on Earth is not getting any smaller, so genetic modification is necessary to keep us and the animals we will eventually eat fed. In closing, I hope I was able to give you a bit more information on GMOs and their history, how they are made, and why we use them to help keep the world fed. Genetically modified foods have gotten a bad rap throughout the years, and while there is still research to be done on GMOs. I'm going to continue eating my corn on the cob and plopping some sugar in my coffee.